Did your father take you out and instruct you on how to recognize the signs of a woman
Hell no.
paying attention to? No. I believe that if we're just living life on our terms, opportunities are just going to flow by us. And if we are educated enough to recognize the signs, we get to be the decider. Do I want to walk through that door or walk through that door? Or walk through both and see what's behind them.
I think there's so many things that I perceive get in the way of recovering nice guys. A lot of it can be this way that we're seeking to, I guess, validate our sense of self-esteem, our sense of worth with women, and still attempting to gain a level of approval with them. We're not comfortable in our own skin.
I mean, I'm a recovering nice guy. We've got, for example, our covert contracts that I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy. And we think these covert contracts should work. If I'm a good guy, I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met. If I meet your needs without you having to ask, you'll meet my needs without me having to ask. If I do everything right, I'll have a smooth, problem-free life. We think that plan should work. And when it doesn't, because it doesn't, we just try harder, right? That's the best we got because nobody gave us an education.
You might not remember this from our first interview, but one of the subject matters that we had addressed, which is arguably one of the favorite things that I really got from your work, was this idea that the meaning of life is to get our hearts broken.
Oh, I love that. I think that's why we're here. We're here to experience the suffering that comes from a broken heart, that comes from saying yes, 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 and opening to things that are so amazing, but yet are going to go away. And we say yes anyway, knowing the reality that we're going to suffer.
Welcome to the Heart of Man podcast, a podcast for any man seeking to live in alignment with his deepest core and lead a life of profound meaning and connection. I'm your host, Alex Lehman, and I'm here to empower you through transformative conversations, eye-opening insights, and practical wisdom. Join me now as we venture into the heart of man. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everybody, to this upcoming conversation with an individual I'm incredibly excited to have back on the studio. He's deeply influenced me in my own life, and that very first interview that we did became a fan favorite among many of you, exploring all the reasons that are wrong, let's just say, about being a nice guy and how we can lead our lives with more authenticity, more integrity, and as well approach our lives with a deeper wholeness as men. So Dr. Robert Glover, without further ado, it's amazing to have you back on the Heart of Man.
Alex, good to be back on your podcast. Good to see you again since we actually got to spend a little time together a few months back.
Yes. It was an absolute pleasure, and what a surprise as well, when I signed up for the men's program with John, and to see you as well at the retreat at Mount Shasta. And it was just wonderful to as well have that experience, to meet you in person.
Well, that was fun because, I did the program with John for about 5 or 6 years, and
Yeah.
I hadn't been in it for the last couple of years, but I just sent John a message around the beginning of the year, a year ago. I said, John, I think you should invite me to be a special guest at Mount Shasta. 'Cause I just love going down to Mount Shasta, being a part of that. And he goes, yeah, sure. Just talk to Ted and Travis. I go, okay, I'll be there. So, yeah, it was great to walk in there and bump into you. We'd already had this conversation before, and see you there in person. And about 60 guys that I didn't know, and maybe about 20 guys that I did. It was just great experience just to, again, go be with men and go deep and just have that connection.
I agree. It was such an incredible experience. And I mean, I went through that whole 6-month journey with John, and we did 2 retreats together. And
Right.
that first retreat that we did at Panamint was incredibly special, but I was very surprised by the impact that Mount Shasta had on us, considering that there was already some rapport among us men and just the depth that we were able to connect to. And, referencing John's language, that field of love that was essentially created within all of us, it just absolutely cracked me open. And it's something that I'll never forget.
Well, that's why I sent that message to John and said, invite me to come be a part of the program. Because, the first several years I did it with him, we had actually 3 intensives that we got away. And usually Mount Shasta, Panamint was usually the last one
Got
that
it.
we did.
Wow. Hmm.
Now he's rearranged it where it's the first one. So it's
Interesting.
kind of like everybody gets off in the desert, kind of a little mini Burning Man, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like it just throw you right into the fire. And
Mm,
I guess a couple years ago they had a big storms, a lot of rain, and
right.
so first time we went out, I was in the first group that went out to Panama, and we for bathrooms we just had buckets and kitty litter,
No
and
way.
we used buckets and then threw kitty litter on top of it. The next year they got porta potties,
Yeah.
now, but they've always had cold plunges and always had a
Mm,
chef, so
so good.
they do that part well. But yeah, Mount Shasta's always felt special to me as well. Just number one, the mountain's just beautiful, and the location just it just sits and looks at the mountain, and I probably have been there half dozen times,
Mm,
and just I enjoy the drive down there from up in Seattle where I usually start from, even though I live in Puerto Vallarta. My vehicles are up at my mom's house in Seattle, and just connecting with the men and getting in the river and doing the cold plunge, and um, just yeah, just great memories, great connections. So I've already got the dates of Mount Shasta on my calendar, and I've already planned around first of the year to send John another message and say, John, I think you should invite me to be a special guest at Mount Shasta. I don't think he'll tell me no.
I love how you're as well, just like being a stand for the things that you want to do and as well your interests. And I think that's also one of the important things for us to, I'm going to say, reintegrate as recovering nice guys to really be a stand for the things that are important to us and actually see how we can get our needs met.
Yeah, and if we don't ask, nobody can tell us yes. You have to ask. You got to risk no.
Yes.
We so often, and this is true of me. I'll pre-reject myself. Well,
Mm.
I even had a little bit of anxiety. I've known John for years.
Mm.
He's been in my home. I've been in his home.
Wow.
And I thought, oh, what if he says no? I thought, what if he says no? I mean, big deal. And then,
Mm.
when I said, I think you should invite me, and he just goes, yeah, talk to Ted and Travis. And I go, okay, it's that easy. And so, like I said, I've already got it on my calendar and already have a note to myself to reserve a spot at the RV park there,
Yeah.
to drive my RV down there. And I haven't even asked him yet, but,
Mm.
I'm just already planning. And, I think that, maybe that is just a metaphor for life, that, um, what we'll have these visions, we'll have these goals, we have these desires, these intentions, and I think typically for at least us nice guys, we think, well, I got to figure this all out myself. I got to make it happen. I got to work against all odds, and nobody wants to help me get there. And the truth is, I think maybe one of the biggest ahas I've had in recent years of where I'm at in my life is that people want to see me succeed.
Mm.
People want to say yes to me. People want to bless my life. People
Yep.
want to serve me. People want to, connect with me and spend time with me. I just got back from Australia where a coach over there, Corey Boutwell, said several months ago, Robert, I want to bring you to Australia. I want to introduce you to the men of Australia. The men need, and I thought, oh, okay, let's see if he pulls this off. And he did. And I spoke at two different men's event there, and the men there just, so
Beautiful.
many had read my book, and
Mm.
their coaches had read my book, and even if they hadn't. And then I'm going to Denmark, in
Mm.
2 weeks. And again, just somebody that you may know, Thomas, who lives in Denmark.
Yes. Yes.
He's bringing me over there to do a program, and somebody asked me just recently, maybe actually it was my coach yesterday, who I happened to meet at a program I was speaking at in Japan. When somebody says, Robert, come to Japan and speak to us. Okay, fly me business class and I'll come. They go, no problem. And
So good.
so I met my coach there that I'm working with now. And she asked me yesterday, did you envision this life that I'm living? Was this the vision that I had years ago that I was going to create in my life? And I said, no, not really. I don't really get real goal oriented or vision oriented, or this is what I said, actually, stuff just finds me, and I've just gotten good at saying yes to it. I mean, my house found me, my wife found me, my dog found me. John Wineland's program found me 8, 9 years ago when I
Mm.
was needing something. Um, and so many things just find me, and it's just a matter of, okay, say yes, and
Yeah.
and just walk through the door and go have an adventure.
Mm.
So, um, And so that's just kind of the way I'm living my life these days. Is
Yeah.
I just keep saying yes to the doors that open, and they keep leading to all these really amazing adventures without me having to like set a bunch of goals and figure out how to get there. It just happens. So I'm having a good time with it.
I think that's a really wonderful starting off point, because one of the subject matters that I really wanted to address here within this conversation is this idea of attraction, dating, as well as sex among recovering nice guys. I guess one thing as well that I might just want to pick up on the things that you had said and how we can pre-reject ourselves. I definitely notice as well that tendency within
Yeah.
myself. And you might not know this, Robert, but I just want to acknowledge what an impact as well you had on my life when you had agreed to come on this podcast 1.5 years ago. And up until then, I was like inviting individuals that I was sort of feeling safe with to
Oh
invite on the
yeah.
podcast,
Yeah. I
and
get it.
having conversations. But then I just had this conversation with myself, or I just pondered on the fact, who would I really love to speak with? And you were one of the first people that came into mind. I was just like,
What do you mean
fuck
one of
it.
the first? I wasn't the first. I mean, who else came to mind besides me?
Let me see. John, definitely. He's
Okay.
definitely he's definitely still on the list, but yeah, I
The,
would say like you're definitely top three.
okay. Who are the other two then? John and who else?
uh, an individual called Peter Crone. I don't know if you're familiar
Peter
with his
Crone.
work. Yeah. He
No.
references himself as the mind architect.
Okay.
He's
Has he come on your show?
not yet, but yeah,
All right. Keep
still
working on it. Keep
I'm
asking.
I'm working on it. That's it. Exactly, and
Find somebody else who's interviewed him and connect with that person and ask them to connect you with him.
I'll remember that. I'll remember that. But I guess the point I just wanted to make with that, Robert, is when you had agreed to that and when we did the interview, it opened the door for me around all these other individuals that I wanted to speak with.
Yeah.
And I just stopped rejecting myself and I started leaning in. I've had the opportunity since then to speak with absolute heroes of mine. Dr. Peter Levine, Alison Armstrong, and it's
Really?
just
Oh, I've done Allison too, mainly because somebody else had interviewed her. So I asked them, connect me with Allison.
So, I just want to say it's just been a really beautiful ride and, using your words, an adventure for me as well, just to keep leaning in and to not pre-reject myself, but actually
Yeah.
really listen in and be willing to receive a no so I can as well, hopefully, let's just say, get a yes. And if not, there's other doors that might be open that I can walk into.
That there always are. It's just,
Mm,
and in talking with my coach yesterday, and talking about this attraction versus approach, I talk about that in my Dating Essentials for Men book, and I mentioned that to my coach. And in there, that's where I use the term "don't pre-reject yourself,"
mm.
because so many men I'd work with will go, "Oh, well, that woman's pretty, or I want to ask her out, or I want to get her number," and I go, "Go for it." And they go, "Well, what if she says no?" And I'll go, "Well, if you don't go for it, you've got a default no."
Yeah.
And sometimes, when I'm used to when I did more dating programs, if I was out with the guys and like a couple walked by, maybe a young couple holding hands or something, and I'd ask them, "Do you know why that woman is with that guy?" They'd all kind of look at me like, "What's the magic secret?" And I go, "He talked to her." He said, "Let's go out. Give me your number."
Yeah.
And it began with the guy took action. He didn't pre-reject himself.
Mm,
Now, the concept that I was telling my coach yesterday in dating essentials that actually apply to all areas of life, not just when I was back in my dating phase, is I call it attraction versus approach. Now, this is kind of, it may sound kind of odd, even contradictory, but I'm not actually a big fan of the whole idea of the law of attraction. The book, The Law of Attraction, The Secret that was based on it. I just have kind of always seen that as materialistic, narcissistic, wishful mumbo jumbo. Mix a little quantum physics in there with our narcissism of wanting our control of our lives. But what I do know is that whether we're talking about on an energetic level or just a self confidence level, that we will attract things in life, right? One of the things I said on a interview with Chris Williamson that he kind of just almost made it viral because I've heard him ask several different people, including like Alex Hormozy and Mark Manson and some others. Do you know Dr. Robert Glover? He's got this meme that that the feminine is highly attracted to a man comfortable in his own skin, knows where he's going, looks like he's having a good time going there. Okay, that's the whole attraction thing. And Chris just loved that, and Alex kind of just went off on it. And whenever I share that with female dating coaches, they always go, ah, yeah, like they get that, right? They get it. Because like just before I got on this call today, my wife was leaving to go pick up my stepdaughter. She's a senior in high school. And my wife and I had been at the gym today. And me going to the gym with her has always been this little bit of a, you know, I don't know what to call it, an emotionally rife issue because my wife is one of those jealous Latinas. She's Mexican, and she's a gym rat. She would be happy to spend 2 hours a day in the gym. She's been working out since she was 15, and she's going on 50, and got a great body and just loves working out. And there's a thing in Mexican culture where women, there's the whole macho thing of men basically here are dogs. They can't be trusted. And I've asked my wife, have you ever known a man that was faithful? She said, no, never. No. Her dad, her brothers, every man she's ever been with, every man she's ever known are basically serial cheaters. Well, the other side of that coin is that the women kind of play into that whole macho cultural thing is that the women, it's sport for them to go get the attention of a man who's with another woman. Even if they just get the man to look or get him to talk to her or pay attention or especially have sex with her. That's just sport here in Latin cultures. So anyway, in the gym, my wife is always pointing out, oh, that woman is acting like a puta. That woman is trying to get your attention. That woman, and so we just had a conversation about that just before I got on the call, before she went to pick up my daughter, about that woman was wanting to she was walking in front of you and she kept working out near you. And it seems like pretty much every time I go to the gym with my wife, there's some discussion afterwards about some woman who was being a puta. And I say that to just bring up the point that I don't try to get women's attention. Now, when I was in my dating phase, I never tried to get a woman to like me, never tried to get a woman to go out with me that didn't want to go out with me, never tried to get a woman to have sex with me, never. And they came to me, and which really surprised me because I wondered what planet I'd landed on. And really, what I can attribute it back to is that I just, number one, I was comfortable in my own skin and am. I was living life on my own terms and am. I do have a good time living my life. And that does attract all things feminine: women, dogs, cats, babies, money, opportunity, adventure. And what I found a key is actually getting good at noticing the open doors, noticing the signals that the feminine sends, that the opportunity. Now, sometimes, the open doors are pretty blatant. Hey, we want to pay your way, come speak to us in Japan. Hey, we want to pay your way, come speak to us in Australia. Come speak to us in Denmark. Come speak to us in Dallas. I'm going later on in December. Sometimes it's that subtle or that blatant, but other times it's like, for example, 2 days ago, I got on a call with a guy named Hafiz, who has a podcast. Used to have a podcast called The Roommates. And I'm speaking at his program in December, and I spoke at it last year. And he wanted to talk yesterday about if I'd be willing to offer some services to men in his program, and that they'd pay me a fee for that. And then he mentioned something about their marketing, and he said, yeah, guys tell us all the time they've read your book and that they come and join our men's program. And I go, well, why didn't they come join my men's program? And he said, Robert, you need to market more effectively. Everybody's read your book. And so then he goes through about 20 minutes kind of coaching me up of how I could better use Instagram and paid ads and better a click funnel to, he said, because, everybody know you need to just record an ad with no more Mr. Nice Guy right next to your face because everybody. So here's a guy who's running, in a sense, a competing men's program. And he's telling me how I could better market mine using, Facebook ads and, just offering up all this help and assistance to me. And I thought this, it wasn't really new information, but it was good to have it kind of pushed in my face again. And then yesterday, the very next day, I'm on a call with a group I'm in of entrepreneurs. It's a men's program that began after the group I went to Japan with. And there, he mentioned a retreat that they had planned in Austin coming up in late November. That's all going to be about, how to create these kind of funnels on Instagram and creating ads. And I go, maybe these are just when these doors open up 2, 3 days in a row. I go, and then I got on another call today with some other people associated with the people I met from Japan who also have a program around using Instagram ads so 3 days in a row, I'm thinking, I think I need to pay attention to that and walk through that door. It's kind of like the woman that walks past you 3 times, leans over and smiles at you 3 times, maybe bends over and gives you a little cleavage shot, maybe just kind of, wiggles her hips as she, and then we go, maybe I should pay attention to that. Maybe that's an open door. Maybe that's a signal. So sometimes it's not always a billboard that just says, ask me for my number or, come to Denmark. Sometimes it's more subtle, and we have to say, all right, these pieces keep lining up. What, like that guy you mentioned, that author that you like, it's Peter Levine. What was the other guy's name?
Peter Crone.
Peter Crone. Now, if I hear Peter Crone's name again in the next day or 2 or 3, I'll know, go online, find his book. Okay. So life's like that, right? It's just interesting. And when it comes to the dating thing, women taught me how to pay attention to the signals that women send because they don't put up a billboard usually. It is usually more subtle. It usually is like when you hear the same person's name and book mentioned 3 days in a row and you go, I need to go check that book out, right? I'd be stupid not to. And the same thing, the woman has walked past you 3 times and kind of glanced back at you and, okay, maybe that's the sign. Don't pre-reject myself. Take action. So again, I'm not a big fan of approach, just approaching a woman because she's hot. I think that's actually invasive and maybe demeaning to the woman and demeaning to ourselves. But if the door is wide open or even just kind of cracked open, go check it out. Go. I say test, don't guess. Go find out. Is that really an open door? Was she really, sending me a signal of attraction? Go find out. Don't sit around, going, well, she did walk by me 3 times. No, take an action, right? So again, I'm not big on going and pounding on a closed door, right? Trying to talk to a woman who doesn't even know you exist. But if a woman's already walked by you 3 times or bent over and given you a cleavage shot or, kind of waggled her hips at you or laughed at a joke or touched your arm, maybe you should take action. Maybe the door's open. And it's kind of like somebody told me the other day, let me see if I get this right, because it reminded me of an old preacher's joke that I knew when I was a preacher. Says, what is it? First time, I can't remember how it went, but first time God sends, it's something to just kind of wake you up. Second time he sends a truck, right? He's going to run you over. And it kind of reminded me of the joke that the preacher's joke where the people, a flood was coming. They're in Louisiana and a flood came and they're announcing, leave your home. The flood waters are coming. And the people said, God will provide. And then, the flood waters come up and the police car's coming down the street. Leave your home. Climb in the back of the truck. No, God will provide. Then the waters come up further and a boat comes by. It says, come get in the boat. No, God will provide. Then the helicopter comes and says, no, God will provide. And the helicopter says, this is God, God damn it. Get in the helicopter, right? So we keep waiting, right, for, that big, message from God that, talk to her. No. If the door seems open, go give it a little push and walk through it and see what's in there.
Before we jump back into this episode, I want to take this short moment to speak to any man listening who's ready to go deeper. The man who longs to feel at peace with himself, who knows he's capable of more, who can sense there are parts of himself he just hasn't yet been able to reach. The man who craves real connection and fulfillment in his romantic relationship and a more passionate, satisfying, intimate life. Through my work, I've had the honor of supporting my clients through incredible transformations, both personally and professionally. Here's what some of them had to say about our work.
I was able to fully reconnect with myself, which enabled me to fully reconnect with my partner.
I was just blown away by how skilled he was as a guide, as a coach. He really met me where I was at.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for this amazing time. You changed my life. And it's so crazy what's possible in such a short time.
Don't think twice. Sign up, take the leap to join him in any of his courses and programs. You will not be disappointed.
I feel more confident, more grounded, and in control of my emotions.
It was just a beautiful and magical experience, and therefore I'm going to work with him in the future for sure.
As men, we often overlook our emotional needs, but Alex is someone you can truly rely on to help you work through them. I could not recommend him higher.
As you can hear, I've had the privilege of walking alongside men and couples through deep and lasting transformation in the way they live, lead, and love. And while my work continues to grow and evolve, one-to-one coaching remains my favorite. The intimacy, the commitment, and the depth inside the container are undeniable. At the time of releasing this episode, I have 2 spots open for my one-to-one coaching. If you notice even a slight inclination to take this next step, my encouragement is to follow that and reach out for a free connection call with no strings attached. You'll find a link to my Typeform in the show notes, or you can send me a DM on Instagram. It would be an honor to explore how I can support you on your journey. Wonderful. I think that analogy is the feather, the stick, and the dump truck analogy.
Let's go with that one. Feather, stick, and feather maybe in a baseball bat and a dump truck. Yeah.
Something like
that. The feather we probably won't notice.
Yeah.
The baseball bat, okay, hopefully gets our attention. Don't wait for the truck.
I think it's often as well referenced, particularly when it comes to like looking at our pain, because we're like avoiding it all the time. Yeah. But just on everything that you had addressed, what do you believe holds nice guys or recovering nice guys back from actually listening to those signs, or perhaps even noticing that they're even there? And how did you, when you came out of your second marriage, how did you start looking for those signs and start walking through those open doors?
You know, I would say maybe 2 things to answer your question, to answer the first part of your question, but the second part, there's more. Self-limiting beliefs and maybe just a lack of education. I mean, think about it. As a young man, did your father take you out and instruct you on how to recognize the signs of a woman?
Hell no.
Paying attention to? No. But ask your readers to comment below. How many of you, your father or an important man in your life, when you were a boy, a teenager, what said, here's how you tell the signs of a woman's interested in you? No, I didn't have it. Maybe somebody did, but you're probably gonna have a lot of, replies down below that says, no. So I was not educated, right? I didn't know. Now, things that have taught me how to pay attention to signals women send is, number one, I was a marriage and family therapist for 25 years. So I listened to a lot of women talk about just how they work, right? What makes them click and what frustrates them, and what makes them mad, what turns them off, what turns them on. And so I think came to a deeper understanding of women. But it was actually women who taught me, here's how you pay attention to the signals that women send. And I would have to say, again, going back to my jealous Latina wife, she's, so many times pointed things out. That woman was flirting with you. That woman was trying to get your attention. And usually I say, what woman? And then she goes, and I said, well, what do you even mean? And she said, well, she did this, or she jutted her hip, or she bent over, or she smiled, or she was this, or she was all, and I'm going, I didn't see any of that. So a lot of it, I just wasn't educated to see them. The other part came down to self-limiting beliefs, is that, why me? Women aren't interested in me. Women, if she's looking my way, I'd be looking behind. Who's she looking at behind me? If she smiled, she's just being nice, And I didn't know how to test that. I didn't know how to go find out, is she just being a nice human being? Is she just a waitress that's just working for tips? Or did, when she leaned over the table to put the plate and I get a full cleavage shot, with no bra, was that? Women have told me that women know what they're doing. When women bend over and give you a cleavage shot, it's not an accident. It's not like they're naive and don't know. They know. Women have assured me of that. I just always thought, oh, she doesn't know that everybody can look right up her shirt. Yeah, she does, right? It's a signal. We're just too dumb to respond to the signal. And so I told this story recently that I I went to a retreat with John in Amsterdam, in Holland, Netherlands. Oh, it's probably 6, 7 years ago. It was one of the first ones we went on. It was my first year in the program. And so we're at a retreat center up in the northern part of the country. And I think, if I remember right, the food, it was either vegan or vegetarian. It was one of the two. And it might have been vegan, meaning we had very little protein and no meat, right? And we did all these, practices and exercise. We even learned how to like split wood with an axe while we were there. So afterwards, we go back into Amsterdam, and there are probably a dozen of us, and we wanted meat, and we found an Argentinian steakhouse in there. And so we go, and the owner of it just loved that we were there and gave us this big long table sitting outside, and there were other tables outside, and the street was out there, people walking up and down. The waitress was just great. The owner kept bringing out these bottles of red wine and putting them on the table for us. And so we were just eating steak and having red wine and seeing the beautiful evening in Amsterdam, people walking by. And I was telling the guys around me, I said, look at that woman over there. She's sending us, signal of attraction, of availability. Oh, no, you're making that up. You've been drinking too much wine. And I go, well, I've had a little bit of wine, but I'm not making it up. I said, listen, guys, there's like a dozen guys here. We've all been off with other men, getting embodied, getting connected, embracing our masculine. We are radiating an energy that is going to just attract the feminine from miles around. Oh, no, you're just making that up. And I go, no, I'm not. And I said, like, look at that woman over there. She's sending us a signal of availability. Go, what? She's got her back turned to us. I said, but notice her hips. She was sitting at a table. I think she had a date across the table. There's another couple at the table. She had been facing her date, but then she turned her chair to where the back of the chair was facing our table, and she hunched up and got on one hip with the other hip up. All right, that's primate behavior of when they, show their butts of saying, come take me. And it's primate behavior. But all the primates I'm sitting with didn't recognize what I said. That's sending a signal. No, she's got her back turned to us. And I go, okay, how about this? Our waitress, a young woman, 20 or so, I said, she just looks for every excuse to come back to our table and be around us. She loves our energy. No, you're just making that up. I said, I'll be right back. I go in. The waitress is inside there. I said, write your number down on this piece of paper. I'm going to call you later on. She writes it down, puts her name, puts a little heart above, one of the letters in her name, hands it back to me. I go back, look, guys, that's her name. That's her phone number. How did you get that? I go, it wasn't hard. The door was already open. I just said, give me your number. And she wrote it down for me. Right? Oh, I can't believe that. And I go, I've been trying to tell you. And then we go out, and we went to this bar. Wasn't very busy. It's only about 9, 10 o'clock at night. And there's a live band. And I was with a buddy of mine. And he had like a little backpack on. And, he looked kind of geeky, actually. But we were standing there listening to the music. And I noticed two young women, much younger than us, standing just behind. There weren't many people on the floor, and some people at the bar, but it wasn't very crowded. Right behind us. And they were just both had a drink, kind of both moving their body. And I told my friend, take a step or two back. Let's take a step back. Let them come in front of us so they know that we see them. And they came, and then they just slowly kind of just moved where they're right in front of us. And they're just kind of moving their bodies and looking at each other and occasionally looking back and have a drink in their hand. And I told my friend, so take your phone out. I said, tap one of them on the shoulder and say, which one of you is the best photographer? I want you to take a picture of my friend and I. And he did. And they go, oh, sure, we'd love to. And they, taking the picture. And then they go, where are you guys from? And, just started talking. And I told my brother, I'm going to the bar. I left him there with the two women because he didn't believe a word that I said. Now, the thing was, we didn't do anything, but we were comfortable in our own skin.
Mm.
You know, we were on purpose. We were having a good time. We'd been around men getting embodied. And that's one thing, you know, going back to like John's work. John needs to warn everybody when they leave one of these retreats from the desert. He says, you are going to be magnetic. You are going to attract the feminine everywhere that you go. You just need to know that and be aware of it. And because it is so powerful. So I believe that if we're just living life on our terms, opportunities are just going to flow by us. And if we are educated enough to recognize the signs, and we can decide, we get to be the decider. Do I want to walk through that door or walk through that door? Or walk through both and see what's behind them. But when we get caught up in that approach mindset that you get from all the dating gurus and all the pickup and all that, we get these blinders on. No, I want that young, hot thing. She's got to be pretty. She's got to be young. She's got to be blah, blah, blah. And because we got these blinders on, I only want that one, you know, that closed door that doesn't even know we exist, we don't even notice all these other open doors out there that we can walk through. And, you know, when I was teaching this to men, they go, well, Robert, but, you know, but I want that one. I go, I know. And she doesn't even know you exist. Good luck. You know, go pound on that door. Go use all your lines. Go ask her, you know, who lies more, men or women? Or go ask her, hey, did you see the midgets fighting outside the club? You know, all that pickup stuff that they've all heard 1,000 times before. And, you know, and every man in the club's hitting on them. Good luck. Good luck. But if you look around, there are women noticing you. You know, my wife didn't mention it, but there was one woman in the gym today who wasn't as obvious, but twice I looked up and she was looking at me and she made eye contact with me. I thought, okay, that's the one my wife should be worried about, not that other one, because that woman was actually opening a door that sent a signal, and she knew I was there with my wife. So I saw it because I know the other woman didn't send me a single signal. So I've learned to recognize it, and it's there if you know what it is.
Beautiful. I think there's so many things that I perceive get in the way of recovering nice guys. A lot of it can be this way that we're seeking to, I guess, validate our sense of self-esteem, our sense of worth with women, and still attempting to gain a level of approval with them. We're not comfortable in our own skin, using your terms. But also, I think another one that I see as being very prominent is this aspect of us completely hiding or dismissing the fact that we're sexual beings that want to engage in this way, that actually experience desire and have sexual impulses and actually like lead from that moving forward. Perhaps we can dive a little bit more deeply into these two aspects around how we can step away from needing a woman's approval, but also how can we create a deeper permission field for our sexuality versus hiding our sexual agenda.
Yeah, so let's piece those two pieces together. One of the things I talk about in Dating Essentials is that, you know, bringing your sexual agenda to the table. Again, we nice guys, I mean, I'm a recovering nice guy. So nothing I'm going to say is meant to be mean or harsh towards nice guys. But, you know, we're naive, right? We're naive. You know, we've got, for example, our covert contracts that I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy. And we think these covert contracts should work. You know, if I'm a good guy, I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met. If I meet your needs without you having to ask, you'll meet my needs without me having to ask. If I do everything right, I'll have a smooth, problem-free life. We think that plan should work. And when it doesn't, because it doesn't, we just try harder, right? That's the best we got because nobody gave us an education. Pretty much all we got growing up was don't be that, don't be like your father, don't be, you know, an angry man, don't be controlling, don't be a jerk, you know, don't lust after women. Everything just got pulled off the table and we go, what's left? Oh, I'll just be a nice guy. And what nice guys are all doing is that they have a two-part paradigm. First part is they're trying to become what they think other people want them to be liked and loved and get their needs met. So there's that approval seeking. And the second thing they're doing is hiding anything about them that might get a negative reaction, that might get them punished, that might get them scolded, that might get them shamed, that might get them abandoned, might get them a silent treatment. So they hide their wants, their feelings, their sexuality. And sex is such a big part of that because culturally, you know, around the world, culture is we're bombarded with sexual stimuli everywhere, but still there's the message you're bad, right? Sex is bad, sex is evil, sex is sinful. And I grew up with this belief that women did not like sex and thought men who wanted sex were bad. That was my internal belief system. And because that was my internal belief system, the world will always look the way we believe the world to be. So that's how my world was, is I tended to just kind of connect with women that, you know, my first wife, sex was okay. I don't think she had any negative issues around it, but it was not at all adventurous. It was very, very white bread. But that's on me as well, because that's kind of how I was. My second wife, on her honeymoon, she says, "Aren't you glad now that we're married, we don't have to pretend to like sex anymore?" I wasn't pretending. Um, and so I found ways to reinforce kind of my worldview, and we will all do that, right? When I got out there and gotten comfortable with my sexuality by the time I got out as a single man in my late 40s and 50s, again, I didn't know what planet I'd landed on. Women were hitting on me, coming on to me, propositioning me, just out and out saying, "I want to have sex with you." I mean, yeah, no date, no handshake, I want to fuck you. Women telling me, "I don't want a boyfriend, but I haven't had sex in 6 months. I'm a single mom. I just want to get laid." I had lesbians coming on to me, said, "I just missed the cock." "Oh, okay, really? Uh, what are you trying to say to me?" You know, and I couldn't believe all this was happening to me. And I think not only had I gotten better, like I said, at reading the signals and being more of a social animal, I challenged a lot of my self-limiting beliefs that women think sex is bad and they think men who want sex is bad. But in all of that, again, I didn't try, through I was calculating, my single years, I think the last night lying in bed. So I split with my second wife like 2002, married Lupita in 2016. So, 14 years, I was, single guy living on my own. I had relationships on and off in there. But for that period of time, I got with a lot of women, and all of them came to me. A phrase I tend to use is they've got to show up wet. I'm not chasing them. I'm not going to try to get them to say yes or they got to show up already open. I don't want to open them, right? And so these women show up already open. And one difference is that I was bringing my sexual agenda to the table. Now, even with that said, when I first began dating in my 40s, I still had a lot of self-limiting beliefs. I thought, well, women wouldn't have sex unless you were in a committed relationship with them, or women would insist on this or that. But I wasn't ready to just get back into a committed relationship after 25 years of marriage. And it wasn't that I was wanting to go like sleep around a lot, but I did just want to go see the world, have some adventures, meet a lot of people, meet a lot of women. And once I held on to that, right, did not give that up. And even though I wasn't trying to go get laid a lot, I got laid a lot, mainly because I just kept saying yes. In fact, I made a commitment to myself, because after getting out of a 14-year, basically sexless marriage, I decided I would say yes to every sexual opportunity that came. I just kept saying yes. And I just kept having such a good time with it. And so I just kept walking through the open doors. Now, it still took me some time to really acknowledge that even though I wasn't highly driven by a sex drive that I had to get laid because I just needed it physically, it was more just an adventure. Yeah, I've never been here before. I'm going to keep saying yes and just see what happens. And because I wasn't trying to get laid, but yet still had my sexual agenda intact, I wasn't, hiding it from the women. I'd let women know I wasn't looking for a relationship right away. If women, brought up, well, I won't have sex unless I'm in a committed relationship. And I go, why would I commit to somebody I haven't had sex with? And I'd say, later on when we have sex, I'm going to assume you changed your mind. Don't assume I changed mine. And they all had sex with me within, a few hours. So I found out women don't bring sex up unless they're already thinking about having sex with you. Even if they're telling you, well, I'm not going to have sex with you, or I'm not going to have sex with you tonight, or I won't have sex with you. They're already thinking about having sex with you, or they wouldn't be talking about it, right? That took me a while to put those dots together. But I just, again, is that getting comfortable in my own skin. Even though, for example, when I started into what I now call my integrated man whore phase, being very conscious, letting women know, that I wasn't exclusive with them, and many women were perfectly fine with that. Um, Even then, I would struggle with sexual anxiety. I mean, at times, I'd struggle getting an erection or staying hard. And so I started having a pre-sex talk with women before we got naked, and just 2 or 3 minute conversation. Let's talk about STDs, STIs. Let's talk about protection. Let's talk about unwanted pregnancy. And then I'd say, and sometimes first time I get naked with a woman, I don't always get or keep an erection. Now, for a while, I struggled with that. I felt bad. I even found myself avoiding sexual opportunity. And once I started telling women that, I thought at first women might go, "What? How many partners have you? How many women have you slept with lately?" Again, my self-limiting beliefs that women think men are bad. And I'd tell them, sometimes I don't get or keep an erection. I said, why don't we just get naked, roll around together, and enjoy each other's bodies?
Mm.
Every woman said, good idea. I like that idea, because it took the pressure off them, because they have pressure on them. They have anxiety. Oh, did I shave down there? Is he going to notice this? Is he going to see my stretch marks? Are my boobs too saggy? Oh, am I going to smell? Am I going to have an orgasm? What? They're worried. They're more worried than we are.
Sure.
And by telling the women that sometimes I didn't get an erection, guess what? I always got them. And if I started to feel like it was going down, I didn't worry about it, because I already told her. Sometimes I don't. And so even by just being open about my sexual anxieties, it took a pressure off that just let us all have a good time. And so that was part of owning my sexuality, that, yeah, I want to be sexual with you. And, sometimes the plumbing doesn't work, but I still want to get naked with you and enjoy your body.
Mm.
And again, that was always a hit with every woman I was ever with. Now, the one unexpected side effect that I noticed after a few times after I'd said that is that because women are evolutionary wired to be in competition with every other woman for the scarce resources that men can provide, it's in their DNA. They're all thinking, oh, those other bitches couldn't get him hard and keep him hard. I'll be the one that succeeds, right? I didn't realize that was going to trigger that inner evolutionary competition in them. So I started noticing the women really put a lot of serious effort into making sure I got hard and stayed hard. And I go, oh, this is all right. This is great. I don't have to work at this. They're doing all the work. So actually letting them know that you have a sexual anxiety tended to bring out the best in them.
Yep.
So again, that's being comfortable in your own skin, right? To say, hey, sometimes it doesn't work. It takes a comfort level to do that.
Yes.
And that seemed to work really well with the women. And, to this day, I found that with my wife, she'd be happy to have sex 3 times a day. Now, if I all of a sudden start wanting sex 3 times a day, she's going to wonder which Puda at the gym I'm thinking about. They'll have to navigate that conversation, to get back to the good stuff. But yeah, that's just women. It's just the weather that we have to navigate to get there.
So good. I see a few things coming up for me. I guess, first of all, the thing that I might just want to reflect is, it seems to me that you showed up within this phase from a very detached level. It wasn't like you were attempting to validate your sense of worth, your value as a man, because you could acquire this woman to have sex with you. I think that's one of the most important things. And, it can be really subtle, but if there is like any form of impression of, this man is trying to get something from me, this doesn't feel like I'm going to say consensual engagement where we're coming together as full individuals, as free individuals, just to have fun, just to explore, just to get to know each other. I think that is a massive turnoff for many women. So that's the first one. And then the second thing, I guess, that I just might as well
And I'll come
add.
back to that piece. So go ahead.
Please,
I'll come
please.
back to that piece.
Yeah. The other thing I also just want to say, and this is also what I've discovered over the last few years, I came out of a relationship 3.5 years ago. And during that time, there was this recognition that a lot of the reasons why this relationship didn't work is because of the sexual shame that I carried. And so there was it was just a deep dive that I decided to go into around Tantra, sacred intimacy, eventually even went into the direction of BDSM. And I just want to acknowledge how amazing that's been for me in terms of really changing my perspective towards that. But it's not that I need to lead with that sexual agenda up front.
Right.
It can also just be that I carry this general sense about me that there is a permission field for this. And I think this is also something that women just enjoy, this recognition, oh, like there's nothing shameful with this individual around this subject matter, meaning I can as well open up. I can as well bring my adventurous side out. I can bring that side about that is curious and would like to explore a few things. And I think that is one of the things as well that I sought to cultivate. And, even early on in the dating phase of meeting someone, it's not so much about like letting them know like what I would do with them initially, but essentially just communicating to them the value that I carry, that, hey, listen, like sex is really important for me. I feel really content in my life. I'm really happy in my life.
And by the way, we don't have to tell women that because they already know it. Right? They already know that. And so, yeah, let's pick apart. There's a lot of pieces you brought there. For dive into one. Well, it's just kind of, for lack of a better term, let's call it the consent issue. That's why I never tried to get a woman to have sex with me. I've not tried to get a woman to have sex with me since my second wife. So we're talking 30 plus years ago. Number one, because I found out I didn't have to, and that's that mantra: they've got to show up wet. But here's the thing. What we culturally have this meme that women can give or take sex, not that important to them. They're not highly sexual. They're this or that. It's a fucking lie. It's a fucking lie that we men made up to protect ourselves from our own fragile ego.
Right.
One of the things I've been saying for a while, and I teach this in a course I have called Positive Emotional Tension. Women are wired by Mother Nature to be sexual Ferraris. They're the most sexually evolved creature on the planet. Because I won't go in a lot of detail right now because it's too long of a story. That intimidates us men because we're sexual mopeds. For us, good sex is, I'm gonna stick my dick in a hole and ejaculate and call that good. No, that doesn't get the women off. They're highly wired. They can have multiple orgasms. They can have multiple partners. There's places on their body that can trigger orgasm. They're purely for pleasure, right? That's just how they evolved. And I can go deeper into the story of that. But here's the thing. I have found that women, when they first meet a guy, they're already evaluating whether or not they're going to have sex with them. And I've heard some stories that they already know, like in 3 seconds or less, if they're going to have sex with them. That means sex is on their mind. Now, this meme we have that women are not highly sexual. If women are not highly sexual, if they're not sexual Ferraris, why throughout time did we create religion to oppress women sexually? Why did we stone women for having sex? Why did we put scarlet letters on their forehead? Why did we lock them in stocks? Why did we burn them at the stake? Why did we put them in chastity belts? Why did we wrap them in burqas and masks? And why did we invent slut shaming? Why did we invent body count? Right? Even the red pill is afraid of women's sexuality, so they're going to weaponize body count against them, because they are sexual creatures, and that scares the daylights out of us men. We men get with a woman and, maybe the conversation gets around to how many partners she's had. And if it's a few more than what we've had, we get intimidated. Oh, were they better than me? Were they bigger than me? Did they have better bodies than me? Did she have more orgasms? Did she squirt with them? And we get all insecure. Oh, body count. She won't be able to be in a real healthy relationship because she's got high body count. Yep. So that's still slut shaming. Why do we do all that if women don't like sex and aren't interested in it? The thing is, we men have made sex costly for women in multiple ways. The truth is, they're still highly wired sexual creatures. So that's the thing. We don't have to go get them to be sexual. And kind of going back to what you said at first around the consent. Guys, if they've got a sexual agenda that they're trying to make out, I want to have sex with that woman tonight. I've got her just drunk enough, or I've got her to agree, whatever it is. All of that, number one, is going to backfire on you and bite you on the ass. But here's the deal. If the woman is already open, if she's already available, we don't have to do anything but walk through that door, right? She's already open. But if she's still closed, if she hasn't decided that it's a yes, or it's a yes tonight, or whatever, if she's closed, basically her foot's on the brake. And if we put our foot on the accelerator trying to do everything, every move we can, every trick we can, everything, buy her another drink. If our foot's on the accelerator, the harder we push on the gas, what's she going to do with her foot on the brake? Push harder. Now, it's when we take our foot off the gas and just show up, create emotional tension, be ourselves, have no agenda, no attachment to an outcome, that she gets interested and takes her foot off the brake. Her foot's off the brake now. Now she's the one who's going to be sending the signals, take me, I'm yours. I can't tell you how many women, once they were already sending me the signals, they were ready, had just said, would you just shut up and fuck me? It's kind of like, I'm still thinking I got to get him in the mood. And no, just fuck me. I'm ready. My foot's on the gas. And the thing is, I was so white bread in my sexuality. Like you said, you went and kind of learned kink and BDSM and all that. Women have taught me all the kink that I know. Women took me to sex clubs. Women took me to strip bars. Women introduced me to threesomes, paid for lap dances, took me into sex clubs. It was women that showed me all the kink. It was women that, one woman I dated, she was really into the Anne Rice vampire books. And she said, Robert, I had this fantasy. Would you be okay if, like, when I'm on top of you fucking you, if I cut your chest and suck your blood? And I go, what could go wrong with that? So, I said yes, right? It was all about yes, walk through the open doors. And it was really fun when I went to my dermatologist to have my yearly checkup. And this woman is about my age, the dermatologist, and she'd, treated my son and stepson for acne. And so she knew me pretty well. She goes, Robert, what are these scars on your chest? I go, you really want to know? She goes, yeah. And I go, I told her what I just told you. And I said, anything I need to worry about? And they go, well, are you sterilizing the razor blade? I said, we put it over a little fire, a little candle. And she goes, yeah, you're probably okay. So, I've still got some little scars on my chest. And later after her, I started dating another woman. And I remember the first time we had sex. We've been seeing each other for a little bit, but we had sex. And then we were having a conversation about honesty and transparency. And then she asked me while we were in bed after sex, how'd you get those scars on your chest? I thought, oh, fuck, I can't tell her. I said, oh, just as a kid, playing out in the woods and stuff. She gets up and goes in the bathroom. I thought, can't do that. Went in the bathroom. I said, I lied to you. Here's how I got those scars. And I told her what I told you and what I told the dermatologist. She goes, oh, cool. I'll tell you sometimes my stories about running through the cemetery butt naked at night and fucking on the tombstones. And I go, I'll look forward to that one. So, by me actually acknowledging a little kink that somebody else initiated, it opened another woman up to her kink. And yeah, my wife scolds me. How come you don't tell me nasty, dirty stories? And I go, well, I think you'll use them against me later on, which she might. But she tells me the nastiest, dirtiest stories that if I actually did these things she's telling me stories about, she'd cut my dick off. But in a fantasy, she's good with it, right? She gets aroused by it. She gets turned on by it. And she's even told me, Robert, when I'm jealous, she goes, I'm also horny. So you just need to know that. When I'm jealous and mad at you, and she's also told me I'll never say no to sex. And even if I'm mad at you, I won't say no because I'm never mad at your cock. And so I'm thinking, all right, why am I trying to get her not to be jealous?
I want to
She's
talk more
horny
about
when
that.
she's jealous. All right, let's dive into that one.
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, a few things coming up for me. So you're referencing
I laid out a few things there we could run with, I'm sure.
You absolutely did, and definitely as well some edgy subject matters, but I think they'll definitely open, guys' eyes, let's just say, or ears, just listening to all of this. So two things coming up for me. So you're mentioning the fact that we want to, I guess, approach women that are already open. I think on that note, there is something important to address.
Because they'll send us a signal that they are open. So do approach. Take the action, move towards it.
I think there is something important to address about this idea, though, around creating the containment so a woman can actually open, or creating that initial sense of safety. I mean, of course, we want a woman that has an initial sense of openness, right? But I think there's also something to say about creating a level of containment, like giving her the felt sense that there is a certain solidity about us where they can actually surrender, where they can actually follow our lead, and not opening to something that might be dangerous to them or feels unsafe.
They're getting penetrated emotionally, physically. They do have no idea if we're skilled, if we're
Right.
clumsy, if we're a clumsy lover, if we're just going to poke them, and that's the best. And I, let's go deeper into this. But my sense is, I don't walk around thinking, how can I create safety and containment for women? I walk around just walking through open doors, being a social animal, engaging with people. I know how to drive up emotional tension in a woman. I don't do it anymore, except with my wife. I'll do it with her, but I don't do it in public around women. I know how to do it, but even without doing it, women still open to me. Again, my wife points them out, and I see it as well. So here's the thing. I haven't thought this out, but I'm just going to throw it out and we'll pick it apart.
Sure.
I'm not sure women need a sense of safety to initially open, because they open to bad boys all the time. All right, men that they know they shouldn't get with, they open to them. I'll give you an example of a thing where condoms. Okay, when I was single and not in committed relationships, I would wear condoms with the women I had sex with. I'd tell them ahead of time during the pre-sex talk, which does create that container of safety for them. That helped them relax and open even further. But they were already open. They were already had their hands down my pants or their shirt off. They were already open. Before I created more safety. And I'd say, and we'll use a condom. And I can't tell you how many women, when they're in the heat of arousal, would say, "Oh no, just put it in. You don't need that." And I'm a guy. I'm analytical. I'm going, wait a minute. You're the one at risk here. You're the one who can get pregnant. You're more likely to get an STI than I am because you have something that's being inserted into you, and you have a container for it. All the odds are against you of not wearing a condom, and you're the one saying, "Oh, don't need it. Just put it in. Just put it in." So the thing is, if a woman is sexually aroused, I don't know that they're necessarily looking for safety.
Yep.
I think they're looking for penetration. Now, I think once, and again, I'm just saying this out loud because I haven't really just put this all together in this piece before. I think moving forward, if there's going to be an ongoing partnership, I think that container does become more important for them.
Yep.
Because again, I always tell men, don't assume women make rational relationship decisions or rational sexual decisions. Okay. Again, they fuck the wrong guy all the time. They do. They know they do. I've told guys, you're more likely to get laid with a wedding ring on your finger than you are without one. Why? Because they know if you're a married guy, you're probably not going to keep coming around. You're more likely to get laid if you're from out of town because they're more wanting. All right, you may not be Mr. Right, but you're Mr. Right now. And kind of like, let's do sex. Let's have the sex now. So women have that impulsiveness around sex. And again, we men don't believe it because we think, well, we think they like to tell us no. No, they want to get to yes.
Right.
Okay. So yes, I believe in that safety thing, but when I do the pre-sex talk, that was more for my benefit than theirs, but it had the side effect of they felt more safe and secure. And guys will tell me, well, I'm afraid I'll kill the buzz if I have that pre-sex talk. And I said, never happened to me. And women always say, no guy's ever done that before. I appreciate it. What they're actually used to is there being a total lack of safety when it comes to sex.
Yep.
No woman's, when I was dating, and if I dated a woman, say we dated a couple months and it looked like we were going to keep seeing each other, I would tell them, if we keep seeing each other, here's what you can expect from me. I'll be conscious. I'll pay attention to you, to me, to us, what's going on. I'll be honest. Everything I tell you will be the truth, the whole truth. You won't ever find out I've lied to you. I'll be transparent. You know what I think, what I feel, what I want, where I'm going, what I expect of you. And I said, I will set the tone and take the lead. I'll show up with a plan. That's me creating container, right?
Absolutely.
Security. Every woman I told that to, I probably told that to 3 or 4 different women that I dated. Every one of them said, I've never had a man say anything like that to me before.
Yep.
So they are used to no sense of safety and security. And what nice guys think is, oh, because I'm repressing my sexual agenda, because I'm not coming on like the bad boys, because that will give them a sense of safety. No, that actually just kills their sex drive.
Yep.
That throws a big bucket of water on it. The woman wants to be with the unsafe man, but wants to feel safe while doing it. Mm-hmm. That's what a conscious man can bring. Now, a nice guy can't bring that, and the bad boy can't bring it. But I often say I feel sorry for women because their choices in life up till now have always been either just the asshole jerk or the wussy doormat,
Yep.
right? And the asshole jerk turns them on, but treats them like shit. The wussy doormat is a nice guy and will do anything for them, but it just doesn't turn their crank.
Yep.
Now the conscious masculine embodied man who's comfortable in his own skin, has worked on releasing his sexual shame, is comfortable walking through open doors, can recognize the signals when the women send it, can be playful with them, take them places they can't take themselves, take them places they've never been, and create a sense of safety and containment at the same time. That's a rare treat for women. And that's why women love that when we men are doing this kind of work.
Agreed. I think there is definitely something to say. First of all, in some of the BDSM explorations that I've had, I've been absolutely surprised by the fact how women would be turned on by things that would absolutely leave me awestruck. Let's just say, right?
Yeah, you never would have guessed. And I get
Totally.
that world is really big on consent, which
For
is a
sure.
good thing.
Which is
It's really
necessary.
big on consent.
Big time, for sure. I mean, there's one individual that I worked with called Omar Pani, and he really has this like prerequisite as a contract. It very much looks like a contract where it's like you're really getting clear on the things that you're gonna be doing, the things that are okay, the things that are not okay before you go into a scene. And from there you engage into the scene, and one can reference that contract as the container, because within that container one can then lean into that. And I think as well, if you're referencing that initial conversation in having that conversation with a woman, that already provides a certain level of container. When I started as well introducing that with the women that I would engage with intimately, I've noticed how it actually softened both of us to actually just
It
enjoy in the experience and let go and just enjoy the ride.
And so here's the thing. When you do that like written contract, with the BDSM world, she's already showed up wet, right? You're not going through that contract if there's not already an acknowledgement she and you are going to have sex, or she and you and others are going to, that me having a pre-sex talk. Clothes have already started coming off, right?
Sure.
Hands are already down pants, shirts are already removed, so there's already a showing up wet. Now that's when, the energy's already there. It's already acknowledged. Something's happening. That's when, the contract comes out, whether it's in your world, whether it's my pre-sex talk. Now, one thing that I will add that I did not do in my pre-sex talks, that if I was in that same place again, that I would do, somebody added this, I think it's a brilliant idea, is that after I talk about protection, STIs, and unwanted pregnancy, I would then ask the partner, what does us having sex together mean to you?
So good.
The saying, what does us having sex together acknowledges
Yes.
we're consenting to have sex. We're going to have sex, right? The conversation means we're in a place of consent.
Yep.
What does it mean to you? Now that creates even greater safety, but it also lets you both know. And then, I would then share the same thing as well, because like I said, I had some women just say, I'm a single mom. I've been divorced for 2 years. I haven't had cock in 6 months. I just want to get laid. Okay. That's what it means to her. Like the lesbians, I just, want to feel cock. All right. That's what it means to her. Another woman said, it means that we're on a pathway of greater intimacy and closeness and connectedness, and perhaps white picket fence and naming our children. I go, let's stop. That's not what it means to me. Right.
Yeah.
So you get a very consensual. So I would add that to the pre-sex talk, even though that's not something I did back in the day, just because I didn't have that tool in the toolbox back then. But if I was going to be there again now, I would definitely do that. And believe it or not, it probably not only solidifies the consent that we're about to have sex, and it has meaning to both of us. What does it mean? But it probably also kind of opens up a fantasy door. I've just been thinking about this about you, and I've just been wondering what it'd be like to do this with you. Because again, women will take it there. That's what, that's where they're going to take it, is whatever. They've already been having fantasies about what it's going to be like to be with you if the clothes are already starting to come off. They've already been in that fantasy world.
let's highlight this subject matter of emotional tension a little bit further. So, first of all, I want to hear, what is it about nice guys that they attempt to avoid emotional tension, and what makes it so important? Last thing, how do we create it or sustain it? So, three parts.
3 parts. Yeah, I do these enough that I'm pretty good at piecing apart the 2 and 3 and 4-part questions that interviewers ask. And often I'll get back to all the parts, not always, but often.
Good.
I did an interview earlier today, with somebody you and I both know, and, and I got off on a little bit of a tangent, segue, and he goes, "Well, Robert, coming back to this," I go, "I was just about to get there." I said, "Remember, I'm a professional. I may get off on a tangent, but I know my way back. I'll get back to the main question." All right, positive emotional tension, one of my favorite subjects. So here's kind of the elevator pitch of it. And it's basically that women need to experience emotional tension with a man to feel attraction, arousal, and ongoing attachment to that man. Okay. Unfortunately, we men in general, especially nice guys, don't like emotional tension, especially in our relationships. Now, this whole emotional tension thing, we'll go back, start with the men part of this. Again, we men in general don't like emotional tension. We have a few places in the world where we get it. Maybe video games, sporting events, a sci-fi movie where there's emotional tension, but there's always a clock on it. And often we kind of know the general outcome before it even gets there. Sporting events, not so much. But the video game, the sci-fi movie, the adventure flick, we know, oh, the good guy's going to survive, even though he's in all these precarious things. And there's a clock on it. Even baseball, my favorite sport, has all kinds of time clocks on it now. The pitcher has to pitch within a certain amount of time. Batter's got in the batter box within a certain amount of time. We just want things to be done. Now, with women, let me say with the feminine in general, the feminine has no internal clock. That's why they're always late. That's why, they're still putting on their makeup when we were supposed to already be there 20 minutes ago. There's no internal clock. They're in a state of emotional tension of going, oh, I'm going to look exactly this way, and I'm going to look this good. I'm going to turn these heads, and I'm going to turn him on, and I'm going to make him happy, and I'm going to be so proud that my accessories and my shoes match this thing, and my hair turned out perfect. And then when their hair doesn't turn out perfect, or the accessory doesn't match in the way, they're upset. They got to start all over again. And for us, we're going, just wear anything. It's okay. Let's go. No, they need that emotional tension, the drama, so to speak, that it just is what drives the bus in terms of the feminine creation. As David Data would say, the feminine is the weather. Feminine. I heard David Data say one time, for women, drama is foreplay. Now that really struck me because, as a nice guy, a recovering nice guy, I'm working with nice guys. We don't see drama as foreplay. We got to get them in a good mood. They got to be happy. They have to have had a good dinner. Everything's got to be perfect before, they're ready. But like I said, my wife's even said, when I'm jealous, I'm horny. Cuando tengo celosa, estoy caliente. I'm hot. I'm horny. And I can't understand that. I actually do understand the evolutionary underpinnings of it and why it exists. But from a guy point of view, oh, you're mad at me because you think that woman was flirting with me in the gym and it makes you want to fuck me more. And I'm going, I'm too stupid to figure out, let you stay jealous because that gets me fucked more. I can't, I'm too dumb to figure that because it doesn't fit in my world that emotional tension's a good thing. So, I've been teaching a course on emotional tension and actually working on a book kind of on and off with it. I honestly, I've been afraid to put the book in the world because number one, men have to have their hand held through this discussion, and just putting it in a book, I know will blow most men away because we can't deal with the emotional tension and we can't understand why women need it. So I've been teaching for a long time, and that's the thing. We men just don't understand it because we don't like the emotional tension. For example, if we start dating a woman and if we like her, we want to lock that thing down. We want to know she's our girlfriend. She's always going to text us right back when we text her. That she's not going to look at any other guy. She's only going to want to be with us. We want to lock it down. Women aren't that way. It's like, oh, they're not going to text right back because that's too easy. They're going to text back when they feel like it. Of course they're not going to let us know that they have us locked down. It's just not how they're wired. They need that emotional tension. And I've had guys say, Robert, can you change the name of this from positive emotional tension? Because they say, I cannot see in any world while emotional tension is positive. Can you change it to like, something emotional tension or positive, different word than emotional? And I go, no. I said, I could change the word, but I didn't invent this. This is just how they're wired. And until you understand it, you're gonna struggle. Now, here's the thing. I think when men do come to understand the whole concept of positive emotional tension and how to bring that to women, it's a powerful masculine initiation, because we don't have much initiation in our world for men nowadays. We don't have rites of passage. But I think if a man can get good with women, i.e., really understand how they work and work with that, that's a powerful initiation, because
Great.
we're going to get a lot of skinned knees and bruised elbows and a lot of concussions along the way to get there. And I think once a man does get that and gets a grasp of why women need the emotional tension and learns how to create it for women in a positive way for them and for the man, and learns to quit putting out all the what we might call negative emotional tension, the net that the women create, because every time the woman's creating emotional tension and we try to solve it and get everything back to good, get her over being jealous so she'll want to have sex later, we're actually killing her attraction and arousal and attachment to us. We just don't know that. So it's a powerful masculine initiation, and it's a gift to women. It's a gift to the feminine. Now, guys will, because we're all technique oriented and we're all grown up with the internet and we've all watched YouTube videos of dating gurus and the whole geeks with techniques thing. We want to turn PET into a technique. How do I get that woman to go out with me? How do I get that woman to have sex? I can't tell you how many men have taken my courses on PET, married 7 years, 14 years, 24 years. Their woman has not wanted to have sex with them since the middle kid was born 17 years ago or whatever. The woman has had no interest in sex whatsoever, and they want to know how to use PET to get that woman to start wanting them again. And I say, remember, I don't try to get women to want to have sex with me. I don't try to get unavailable women available, non-sexual women sexual, unapproving women approving. I don't go there. I spent too much of my life going down that route. It doesn't work. And so men want to turn it into a technique, but it's not a technique. It's a gift to the feminine. Because like when women would say to me in the past, Robert, you're a player. I thought they were criticizing me or attacking me. And what I came to realize was I was doing things to them that they weren't used to having done to them. And they assumed I'd done that many times before to know what I was doing. Right. And, every one of those women had sex with me within 24 hours after they called me a player. And one, it was 24 hours, because I made her wait for calling me a player, which increased the emotional tension because she really did want to do me right then. I said, no, you got to wait till tomorrow night. That's not fair. No, you were a bad girl. You called me a player. We'll wait till tomorrow. Oh, she was ready tomorrow. She was ready.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So that's emotional tension, right? Yep. That's playing with that, having fun and giving the woman a gift because it raised her desire, her anticipation, her the uncertainty, but and the fantasy level in her head that went up of what's going to happen tomorrow. So I teach men how to do things that increase that emotional tension in positive ways, right? And how to stand in their own and be embodied and strong. I'm sure you've done a few of your standing in your God image, standing
big time.
And, I've been standing in that image of Mount Shasta, of that rock out in Panamint. I've been standing in the image of Mount Rainier, solid, unwavering, storms battering me, and just letting it come, letting the negative emotional tension come. Like I said, just before my wife left today, she goes, I need to say this to get this out of my head, brought up this emotional tension thing. And I was just lying on the bed, just, I knew I was about to go do an interview. She, I just go, no, yeah. I'm in love with you. Yeah. Yeah. She goes, I'm going to go to a different gym. You can work out at that gym. I go, No, I said, I want to go to the gym you work out at. Well, and I said, and there's probably putas in every gym. She goes, you're right. There are. And, I just held my own. And then she left, gave me a kiss, had a smile on her face. I just, I didn't try to fix it, didn't try to go away. I was just solid with it, gave her something solid, which raised her attraction and arousal level to me, where I am that source of strength, that she can be the storm that batters the mountain and the mountain is still solid. So again, there's a whole lot more to this, but basically, when we men can learn to be solid in the face of the feminine storm, again, going back to those open doors, so many more doors open up, so many more opportunities come because we're solid, and the feminine wants to get with that. The feminine wants to be close to that. So again, I define PET, positive emotional tension, as powerful masculine initiation and a beautiful gift to women, not a tool to get them to do what we want them to do. It's a gift that lets them be their beautiful selves and experience the depth of, as David Data would say, the experience of being fucked to God. That's what they want the depth of. And they need emotional tension for that to happen. It doesn't happen from us going, do you like this? Is this okay? Was that all right? How am I doing? No, that doesn't take them there.
Wonderful. Well, let's let our listeners chew on that one and meditate a little bit on this one. I mean, there's so much more I could dive into on that subject matter. And
there is. We can talk about it for hours.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, first of all, I just want to be respectful of your time and thank you for as well coming on. It's been a really wonderful conversation. We went into terrains that I wouldn't have expected us to go to. I didn't think I would.
That's what happens when you ask me, these kind of questions. It's all your fault. You asked the questions.
Kind of true, man. I didn't think I would speak about kink with Dr. Robert Glover, but yeah, that was fun. Well, Robert, I want to ask, where can our listeners find you? And is there anything you want
Mexico.
Amazing. Is there anything you want our listeners to know about? Any of your offerings?
Well, I have a membership program, Integration Nation. So if they want to check out my men's membership program, it's integrationnation.net. And if they want to check out my weekend workshops, I got one here this weekend in this room right behind me here in Puerto Vallarta, 8 guys from all over the world. I do 4 or 5 of those a year. So those are on drglover.com, along with my courses and my coaching. So drglover.com, integrationnation.net.
Wonderful. I'll make sure as always to as well put that in the show notes.
Of course.
As a final question, Robert, you might not remember this from our first interview, but one of the subject matters that we had addressed, which is arguably one of the favorite things that I really got from your work, was this idea that the meaning of life is to get our hearts broken.
Oh, I love that.
So we already addressed this, but I guess I just want to close off on this idea that in the spirit and, tied to that idea of not holding back, I'd love for you to just for a moment, speak directly to any man listening who, might be holding back at this moment, who aren't living the full life that they'd really want to live, who would like to lean into more truth. How can they start learning to live, love, and lead more fully?
Yeah. Okay. Again, this could be a whole interview. I really came away with that idea that we're here to get our hearts broken after doing an ayahuasca ceremony. And just the basic realization that if something is good enough to break our heart is something we wouldn't want to have missed. Now, I don't know where Nala is. She's probably
there. She is
right over
the table.
There.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see her.
Yeah.
Nala is, usually when I'm in here, she's usually either lying right here at my feet or back over there, depending on how cold it is. She likes it cool, but not cold because she doesn't have a lot of fur. I love that dog to death. I was away for 3 weeks, Australia for 2 weeks, and Seattle. Just got back here. I miss her more than anything else that I miss of home. I can still talk to my wife. I miss my home. I miss my bed. I miss my routines. But I miss Nala. And statistically, I'll probably die before her. No, I got that backwards. She's probably going to die before me. And, when I go away, she gets depressed. She goes and gets in the bathroom in the shower and gets back in the corner of the shower like this when I go away. It breaks her heart. If she dies before, I do, I've got a picture of her right here on this monitor with a hoodie on, next to me with a hoodie. I've got a picture on this monitor of her, on the beach. Her toys are all over the house. I'm just so used to her always lying here at my feet while I'm doing interviews. It's going to break my heart. And I'm going to leave those pictures up, and I'll leave the toys around the house to remind me of how much I love that crazy dog, right? And a dog is just a dog. Can you imagine the other things in life that we could love? Family, partner, children, friends. If we were to open to getting hurt, if we were open to getting our heart broken, if we were open to them doing something hurtful to us, leaving us, cheating on us, abandoning us. Because if we don't open to it, we're going to miss out on all the goodies. All the goodies are from these open doors that we walk through and say yes to, and let them bless our lives. I mean, I so much enjoyed going to Australia, and I had no idea what to expect. And I had anxiety about going, and I'm so glad I went. But, there's parts of me that are afraid to go do things that are new and unknown. And so I taught a lesson on this a few weeks ago on my membership program. And I was actually wrapping up a series on freedom. And I said, we're not really free until we're willing to get our hearts broken. And I kind of pivoted on the Buddhist idea that attachment is the cause of all suffering. And I said, I may have misinterpreted the Buddha, or the Buddha might not have even gotten it right, that it's not the attachment that we need to be avoiding. It's the suffering that we need to be welcoming. I'm attached to that dog. I'm attached to my wife. I'm attached to my home. I'm attached to my health. I'm attached to my friends. And I know they're all going to go away. It's impermanence. Everything's going to go away. That's a Buddha concept, but it's just reality. Everything goes away. David Snarch in Passionate Marriage says, in every relationship, somebody's going to get left. I think that's the most liberating concept I ever heard. Because now I don't have to hold on tight. I don't have to guard myself. I don't have to protect myself. I don't have to try to control people or situations. I can just stay open and keep saying yes, knowing I'm going to get hurt. My attachments are going to lead to suffering. Now, the question is not, should I close off to attachment so I don't suffer, or do I learn to suffer well? Do I learn to embrace the suffering? Am I okay with leaving the pictures of my dog up on my monitors after she's long dead and leaving her toys around the house? That'll make me suffer. And you know what? Having a good cry, having a good memory, that doesn't hurt. Yeah. That doesn't hurt. And so I think that's why we're here. We're here to experience the suffering that comes from a broken heart, that comes from saying yes, 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 and opening to things that are so amazing, but yet are going to go away, or going to let us down, or going to hurt us in some way. And we say yes anyway, knowing the reality that we're going to suffer. That, I think, leads to an amazing life.
Dr. Robert Gulliver, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for all the questions about kink.
It kind of is. Yeah, I'll take credit for that. It was fun. Well, listeners, I hope you got a lot of value out of this conversation. As always, if you feel another man can benefit from this conversation, ensure to pay it forward. And until next time, signing off. Thank you for listening to this episode. Your time and attention is truly appreciated. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe to stay tuned for my upcoming episodes. And in case you know somebody who would find this episode helpful, I encourage you to pay it forward. Finally, if you've personally been receiving value from the show, one way you're able to support this podcast is by leaving a 5-star rating and a written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Not only does this help more people find the show, but it also supports me in bringing more incredible guests on for the future. I'm your host, Alex Lehman, and until next time, signing off.